Self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand your moods, your emotions, your drives, as well as their effect on others. In other words, all those things that we have, how do they affect others? I have a degree in counseling. I've done a lot of it. I would say the first lesson I learned in counseling people is that people do not realistically see themselves. That's an absolute fact. Most of us do not have the ability to see ourselves, especially as others see us. Now, what's interesting is we can quickly see others. Isn't that true? We can quickly look at somebody and say, my goodness, why did they do that? But then all of our dysfunction and all the stuff that we have in our life, we are very blind to ourselves. That's just all of us. Each of us is really 5 people in your notes. You're who you are. Number 2, you are who you think you are. Number 3, you are who your family thinks you are. Number 4, you're who your friends think you are. And number 5, you are who your acquaintances think you are. Say right with me in the notes. The less we know about ourselves, this is very true, gang. The less we know about ourselves, the more we will role play. When you think of authentic people, they're authentic because they're very self-aware of who they are. And if we're not self-aware, we will begin to role play our life. Let's go on. The better we know ourselves, the more we will be the same with everyone in every situation. In other words, we'll be very comfortable in our skin. Now, what does self-awareness mean to a leader? I mean, how do we apply this to leaders? How do I know that I'm self-aware, and what kind of behavior should I have in my self-awareness? Number 1, consistency. And when I speak of consistency, I'm talking about consistency in moods, values, and principles that allow leaders to be effective. It helps them to delegate decision-making. So ask yourself as a leader, how am I? Am I consistent in my moods? Am I consistent in my values? Do people know my values? Am I consistent in my principles so that people around me know how I'm going to respond? Let me just illustrate it this way. 95% of all the decisions that are made by my group, my organization, are not made by me. My people know me so well. They just know me very well. I don't have to make very many of the decisions. They know how I would respond about every situation because I operate my life on certain values. I operate my life on definite principles of leadership, and they know that, and I'm very consistent in my moods. They're never going to wonder, is he up or is he down? Kind of approaching? Do I need to wait for another day, another place, another time? Consistency. Second characteristic or behavior of self-awareness is openness and transparency. As a leader, one of the areas that I have found that is very challenging, openness and transparency, is when you do performance reviews with people. When you do performance reviews with people, it's difficult because people are, again, lack of self-awareness. And so, a lot of times it's confrontational and it's not always fun. The third behavior is the willingness to address weaknesses. The willingness to address the weaknesses in my life or in your life without becoming defensive is huge in self-awareness. The more we know ourselves, the more we'll allow other people to talk about the areas that we fail in and that we are weak in. And self-aware leaders, I put this in notes, bring people around them that compliment for their weaknesses. In other words, if I'm aware of my shortcomings, which I'm very aware of my shortcomings, the only people who are more aware of my shortcomings than me are my inner circle. They're really aware of my shortcomings. One of my favorite stories is one time I was writing in one of my books, it was in Leadership Gold, and I was talking about knowing your weaknesses, and I called my assistant, Linda, and I said, Linda, I'm writing on my weaknesses, and why don't you, over the next couple of weeks, just jot down some of my weaknesses down and kind of then give them to me, and I'll make sure I get them in my chapter here. And Linda said, well, John, she said, you don't need to wait that long. I can give them to you now if you want me to. And I said, what do you mean you can give them to me now? She says, well, she said, I've worked with you for 20 years. I said, get a piece of paper, take notes. I'll give them to you right now. I said, oh, that's a little quick, isn't it? Don't you really want to think about this? No, I don't need to think about it. She's very aware of my weaknesses. What I love is leaders who kind of somehow try to snow people. You know what I'm saying? Go back to your people and let them know that you know your weaknesses. It'll make them feel good that you know. You know what I'm saying? They'll just say, oh, thank God he knows. We don't have to tell him. You know what I'm saying? He understands. He knows. We just had a very important meeting yesterday, and I had my inner circle down, and we had about a 5-hour meeting, very kind of a strategic meeting on a project. And what was phenomenal is, in that 5-hour meeting, I bet you I didn't talk over 10 minutes in the 5-hour meeting. They asked the questions. They have my back. They know what I'm good at. They know what I'm not good at. They know the questions they need to ask because they know that I won't ask them, perhaps because it's weaknesses in my life. And I just thought how nice it is to be in a group of people who loves me unconditionally, who knows all of my weaknesses, and are saying, John, we got your back. We're going to make sure we get this covered for you. We're going to make sure that we do the right thing on this project. This decision's got to be made. We're going to help you. And I thought, man, wow, I couldn't do it without it. Just one more quick behavior that's important in this entire area of self-awareness, and that is, number 4, understanding your values and what's important to you. That's the core of self-awareness. It's the character anchor that holds you and me steady. And in your notes, self-awareness is a result of maturity and feedback and a willingness to change.